So, today we're going to talk about a threat that doesn't come from some foreign enemy. No, this is something hidden deep inside a nation's own defenses, something that can rot its military from the inside out.
Just think about that for a second. What do you think is the single biggest threat to a powerful modern army? Is it a rival nation? Some kind of crazy new weapon technology? Or maybe a perfectly planned surprise attack?
Well, it turns out the answer might be a little closer to home than you think. For a lot of armed forces out there, the most dangerous, the most destructive threat isn't an enemy at all. It's an internal problem: corruption.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, you have to understand what corruption actually is. Think of it like a corrosive force, something that just quietly and relentlessly eats away at the very foundation of a military.
So what are we actually talking about here? Well, military corruption is basically when people in power abuse that power for their own private gain. We're talking about officials taking bribes to buy faulty gear, or commanders just straight up pocketing the money that was meant for their soldiers' food and pay. This isn't just, bad accounting. It's a total betrayal of trust at the highest possible level.
And you gotta understand, this kind of corrosion, it doesn't happen all at once. It spreads out in ripples. And that first ripple, the first and most immediate hit, is on the soldiers themselves. It just hollows the military out from the inside.
And this is where you really start to see the direct damage of that internal rot. I mean, when that money gets siphoned away, the supply chains just fall apart. Soldiers get sent into battle with gear that doesn't work. And this isn't just a line item on a budget, right? This absolutely demolishes morale, it destroys discipline, and, well, it leads to a total collapse in how well they can actually fight.
And this right here, this shows you just how stark that gap becomes in the real world. Instead of getting the modern weapons they actually need, troops might get rifles that are known to jam in the middle of a firefight. Instead of getting proper food, they're literally handed expired rations. This stuff isn't theoretical. It's the life or death reality for soldiers on the ground when corruption infects the system. And hey, this isn't just a theory, Research totally backs this up. Take Nigeria, for example. Studies there have shown that years and years of corruption in how they buy military equipment has left their own forces tragically unprepared to fight insurgencies. It makes them more vulnerable and way less effective.
You can see these devastating consequences playing out in real time in active war zones. In a conflict like the one in Ukraine, where every single piece of gear, every supply line is absolutely critical, these kinds of weaknesses fueled by corruption can literally be the deciding factor between winning and losing.
But the story doesn't end there. Not even close. The second ripple, man, it goes way, way further. It starts to weaken the entire nation, even threatening the foundations of its democracy.
And this is the part that's really scary. A military that's been rotted out by corruption isn't just bad at fighting. It can turn into this rogue political power, one that actively works against the very government it's supposed to protect. Okay, think about it like this. In a healthy democracy, the civilians are in charge of the military. Simple, right? It's a basic principle. Well, corruption just flips that whole thing on its head. It creates this kind of shadow system where the military answers to nobody and starts throwing its weight around politically, completely separate from any elected leaders. And the political fallout from that? Oh, it's huge. We're talking about democratic institutions getting weaker and weaker, the rule of law getting shredded. In places like Pakistan and Nigeria, we've seen how military interests, greased by corrupt money, can get directly involved in governing. They build these powerful networks that fight against any kind of reform and seriously increase the risk of coups. You even see this in countries that are actively trying to do the right thing. In Indonesia, for instance, ongoing corruption in the defense sector allows the military to hang on to this dangerous level of independence, which makes it almost impossible for civilian leaders to get any real transparent control.
And from there, that third and final ripple, it just explodes. It goes beyond a country's borders and starts to threaten entire regions, and ultimately global security itself.
I mean, just look at how this chain reaction works. It all starts with one corrupt official signing off on a shady arms deal. Next thing you know, those weapons are in the hands of criminal cartels or terrorist groups. All of a sudden, regional conflicts that might have died down are now being fueled for years to come. And finally, any big international effort to create security just gets completely torpedoed. So what this really means is that military corruption is a global threat multiplier. It doesn't just create a new problem, it makes every other problem out there so much worse. It can kick off regional arms races, weaken crucial security alliances, and create power vacuums that can lead to failed states. And in our modern world of hybrid warfare, these kinds of weaknesses are the perfect opening for an adversary. So when you step back, when you connect all these dots, you finally start to see the true staggering cost of this whole thing.
It really is a devastating chain reaction, isn't it? The corrosion starts small, hollowing out an army so it can't even protect its own people. Then, that weakness spreads to the nation's political system, eating away at democracy from the inside. And finally, that instability spills over the border, creating a threat to global security for every single one of us.
And that leaves us with a really tough question to think about. When the very group of people created to defend a nation actually becomes its biggest weakness, it just changes everything we think we know about security. If a country's own defenders are its worst enemy, how can we ever hope to achieve real, lasting global security?